Most people, when they picture the roots of economic thought, go straight to Adam Smith, Karl Marx, or, if they paid a bit of attention in school, Aristotle. But there is another story quietly standing in the Middle Ages, a story rarely mentioned. Long before capitalism, central banks, or the modern financial ecosystem, nearly 1,000 years ago, a Muslim scholar issued a warning that describes today's financial crises with striking accuracy. He said, "When money loses its moral compass, society begins to rot from the inside out. And if we're honest with ourselves, when we look around, doesn't that sentence feel a little too familiar?" To understand Ebu Hamid Al-Ghazali, we need to go back to the 11th century. Europe is still trying to heal its wounds, fragmented, poor. But the Islamic world is in a very different place. A vast geography stretching from Al-Andalus to the lands of Persia, Baghdad, Damascus, Cairo, wealthy, crowded, dynamic cities. Trade routes are filled with caravans carrying silk, spices, textiles, and jewels. Markets are vibrant. Wealth is multiplying. Life is accelerating. And right here, Al-Ghazali notices something. We are getting richer. But are we really moving in the right direction? What disturbed him was not wealth itself. It was the relationship being formed with wealth. For Al-Ghazali, money was not something divine, certainly not something to be worshipped. Money was a tool, a means that allowed people to trade, to produce, to cooperate. He compared money to a mirror. A mirror is not valuable on its own. Its value comes from what it reflects. Money is exactly the same. The gold or silver itself is not what matters. What matters is what you do with it. He was expressing in the 11th century something modern economists often repeat today. From this, he draws a powerful conclusion. Money that does not circulate is dead money. Wealth that sits locked in chests, buried or hidden away, is not just useless. It harms society. Because when money stops circulating, trade shrinks, production declines, and people wear down. The problem is not the absence of resources, it is the halt of circulation. In reality, this is an early version of what we discuss today in debates about inequality. But Al-Ghazali's argument was not superficial. He was not saying the wealthy are bad. This was about the system. If money does not circulate, prices become distorted. Markets are shaken at their roots. Trust declines. And once trust declines, everything falls like dominoes. Another issue he focused on was speculation. He harshly criticized merchants who raised prices during crises, created artificial shortages, or profited from people's hardship. Because to him, profit without contribution is meaningless. He was firm enough to say, "Whoever profits from the suffering of others profits from corruption." That sentence still holds when we consider financial bubbles, crisis opportunists, or manipulative markets today. But let's be clear, Al-Ghazali was not against trade. On the contrary, he saw trade as natural and necessary. His problem was dishonest trade, false scales, hiding defects, withholding information, because markets run on the gears of trust. If trust collapses, the economy collapses with it. What we now call information asymmetry or moral hazard, he described without technical jargon. His thoughts on labor are also striking. Money earned through effort strengthens a person. Money earned through manipulation rots a person from within. That may sound like a motivational speech, but in reality it is a deeply practical observation. Societies grow when people contribute. They decay when exploitation increases. When it comes to the state, he is even more uncompromising. At the time, rulers were reducing the gold and silver content of coins to expand their wealth. In other words, they were creating hidden inflation. Al-Ghazali saw this clearly as theft. Deliberately reducing the value of money is slowly stealing from the people's pockets. The duty of the state is to protect the market, not to manipulate it. Rulers without a spirit of justice, he argued, bring collapse faster than external enemies. And perhaps his most piercing sentence is this: a society can survive poverty, but it cannot survive corruption. Economic collapse usually does not happen because money runs out. It happens because trust is shaken. Money is, in essence, a belief system. When people lose that belief, the system stops functioning. Al-Ghazali also had clear observations about human nature. People hoard out of fear. They speculate out of greed. If they think they won't get caught, they cheat. And if the system rewards these behaviors, corruption becomes normalized. That is why he insisted, if you want to fix the economy, you must fix the incentives. Laws matter. Markets matter. But behind them stands the human being, a human being driven by fears, desires, and ambitions. If wealth is not balanced with responsibility, society begins to decay. Civilizations grow through balance. When that balance breaks, collapse follows. Look at the world we live in today: record debt, speculative manias, rising inequality, institutional distrust. Technology may be fascinating, markets may move faster, but human behavior remains the same. If Al-Ghazali were alive today, he likely would not be surprised. Perhaps he would simply say, quietly, when justice is lost, prosperity cannot remain. Economies do not collapse because of mathematics. They collapse when people stop trusting one another. Money is not a mechanical tool. It is a moral ecosystem. And when that ecosystem breaks, the system eventually collapses with it. That is the point. The past is not merely history, it is also a mirror. And without looking into that mirror, it is difficult to understand the future. And if this gave you a new perspective, subscribe.